Here is the imbalance of acid and base. Acidosis, the pH level is less than 7.35, while the normal pH level is within the range from 7.35 to 7.45. Alkalosis is the situation of the pH level higher than 7.5. Bicarbonate ion less than 24. And with the metabolic cause acidosis. If you pay attention to the four basic types of acid-base imbalance, on the left side are the acidosis. Either is a metabolic caused or respiratory reason caused. They're all acidosis. So if it's caused by metabolic cause, we call it metabolic acidosis. If it's caused by the primary respiratory system problem, it is called respiratory acidosis. And the parameters of these four types of simple acid-base imbalance are all shown on the screen on our PPT. And please pay great attention to these parameters because these are the evidence or the clues you can collect, you can get to make the judgment whether it's a kind of simple acid-base imbalance and what are the reasons. It's a metabolic one or respiratory one. And when the bicarbonate level is less than normal, in other words, the base in your system is reduced, means we have extra acid. It's acidosis. And as a compensation respond or reaction of our body, we will try to decrease the bicarbonate level, increase the bicarbonate level. So the carbon dioxide pressure will be less than 40 after the respiratory compensation get involved. And later on, we'll explain during the respiratory compensation why the carbon dioxide pressure will be less than 40. And the other type of acidosis, because it's a respiratory cause, so we pay great attention to carbon dioxide pressure. Respiratory acidosis shows the parameter of carbon dioxide higher than 40, and the bicarbonate will be higher than 24 after renal compensation. And the same situation happens to the alkalosis. Please use the acidosis, either its metabolic cause or respiratory cause, as a reference to try to understand the alkalosis one. Acid-base parameters and arterial blood gases, ABGs, is a very important data or indicators we're using in clinical work to find out the real situation in our body, because compared with the pathology, all the pathophysiology problems are not shown clearly morphologically like all the pathological problems. When we were learning pathology, everything you can see, and either with your naked eyes or with the aid of, microscope. But what are the weapons or the tools we use to find out the truth about pathophysiological situation? It's through the lab test. When the lab results comes back from the lab department, we will have lots of parameters on the reports, and it's essential for us to understand it, to read it, understand it, and also know the meaning of it. In other words, the clinical significance of the variation of parameters. And there are two key points we need to pay attention to. One is the acid-base parameter. The other one, actually they are combined and related closely with each other. Arterial blood gas 血气分析. And have a look at this one. The ABG sampling is the arterial blood gas sampling. By looking at arterial, it's the sampling were done on the arterial end. We get arterial oxygenated blood out of the circulation system of the body, not from the venous blood vessels. So please pay attention to this part. And now let's start to discuss all the parameters related to acid and base balance and imbalance. pH level is a measurement of the acidity of the blood, reflecting the number of hydrogen ions present. When pH is above 7.45, we call it alkalosis. When it's less than 7.35, it's acidosis. So what is the situation between the two? Means acid-base balance? That's one of the situations. Acid-base balance is not enough. There are other two circumstances that pH can show normal level or within the normal range. Acidosis. One is acidosis or alkalosis with complete compensation. We know from the example I've just shown you with 4 of the simple acid-base imbalance within the same picture, the compensation, the respiratory compensation to the metabolic acidosis and the renal compensation to the respiratory caused acidosis, right? So whenever there is an imbalance of our body, there's no way our body would not respond to it. It will respond immediately, even when we are not aware of the onset of acidosis or alkalosis. So it's difficult to rule out the influence from compensation. So clinically, we need to take this into our consideration that the compensation can cover the real fact of acidosis or alkalosis. In other words, the pH level is normal. If you don't give it a second thought, you may think pH level is normal. Okay, the person is perfect. No acidosis, no alkalosis. Let's leave her or leave him alone. And next day, big trouble. And the third situation is a mixed acidosis or alkalosis. Both events are opposite efforts on pH, may also have a normal pH. For example, metabolic acidosis with a respiratory alkalosis. For example, they're affecting the pH level to opposite direction. So we will have a neutral pH level. But the real situation is both, acidosis and alkalosis exists in this patient's body. Partial pressure of carbon dioxide, PaCO2. The amount of carbon dioxide dissolved in arterial blood. Please pay attention to arterial blood, not venous blood. And the normal range. The normal range is from 33 to 46. The average is 40. The respiratory acidosis, in the case of respiratory acidosis, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is more than 46. And In respiratory alkalosis, the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is less than the lower limits, 33. The partial pressure of carbon dioxide reflects the exchange of this gas through the lungs to the outside, so it is called respiratory parameter. SB, AB. These two parameters are designed for bicarbonate ion concentration in plasma. SB is measured under standard condition. AB is measured under actual condition. So standard condition, SB is an ideal situation, and AB is a fact, real situation. The difference between two cases is that the former rules out the respiratory effect on bicarbonate ion concentration measurement, but the later does not. Bicarbonate ion in SB and AB, the normal range is 22 to 27. 22 to 27. And the average is 24. In metabolic acidosis, it's less than 22. Metabolic alkalosis is more than 27. Once the acid-base disorder is identified as respiratory or metabolic, we must look for the degree of compensation that may or may not be occurring. This compensation may be complete, pH is brought into the normal range, or partial. pH is still out of the normal range, but is in the process of moving towards the normal range. In pure respiratory acidosis with very high partial pressure of carbon dioxide, normal bicarbonate ion, and low pH, we would expect an eventual compensatory increase in plasma bicarbonate ion that would work to restore the pH to normal. Similarly, we expect respiratory alkalosis to elicit an eventual compensatory decrease in plasma bicarbonate ion. And a pure metabolic acidosis with low bicarbonate ion, normal partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and a low pH level should elicit the compensatory decrease in partial pressure of carbon dioxide and a pure metabolic acidosis with high bicarbonate ion, normal partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and high pH should cause the compensatory increase in partial pressure of carbon dioxide. All compensatory response work to restore the pH to the normal range. Sounds a bit complicated, and let's pause for a little while, and you can go through it by yourself to understand it better, then we'll move on, okay? I'll give you 2 minutes.